Good morning. Today's Monday, July 26, 2001. I'm here with Hospital Corpsman Third Class George Haislip, Haislip, United States Navy, retired, and we're conducting his oral history. Mr. Haislip, good morning. You were born and raised, I understand, in the Baltimore area.
No, I was born in Cumberland, Maryland.
Okay, that's even nicer.
October the 8th, 1932. And I stayed there in Cumberland until I guess I was 6 months old. We moved to Grafton, West Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
And I spent the better part of my young life there. Moved from Grafton, West Virginia in 1940 to Chillicothe, Ohio. My father was a railroadman, and he was reassigned there. And moved.
Which railroad?
B&O Railroad,
Okay.
Baltimore and Ohio. And in 1944, in December, we moved from Chillicothe, Ohio to Ferndale.
How old were you at that time?
I was 12 years old at that time. I went to Ferndale Elementary School, and with my wife, and she was in the 5th and 6th grade with me. And I went on to Glen Burnie High School and graduated. Actually, the class of 52, the Korean War was on, and I was 19 years old, and the draft was getting pretty close. So I took 2 Englishes a day, and I got out in December of 51, actually. But my graduating class was 52. I went to work at the Maryland Dry Dock on the Navy piers, working on bringing LSDs back into commission for the Korean War. And decided I wanted to join the Navy because the draft was going to get me into the Army sometime in June. So in April of 52, I joined the Navy.
You were a very much a youngster during the Second World War. Were there any impressions or any memories that you have of that?
Oh, I can
period of
remember.
time in your life?
I can remember the announcement on the radio that Pearl Harbor was bombed on December 7th. It was a Sunday, and we had just got back from Mass. And Sunday in our house at that time was a day of rest. It was books, music, mostly books for us at that time. And I remember it happening, and I had a older brother who in June, I guess, of 42, actually, he joined the Air Force. And he served with the Air Force in different stations in the United States. Omaha, Nebraska was one, and then in San Antonio, Texas. And he went overseas, I think it was the 8th Air Force, went over to a little island off of Okinawa called Hiroshima. And they were in the Battle of Okinawa and the bombing of Japan at that time. And he was in a group of men talking to Ernie Powell, the war correspondent who was killed on Hiroshima by a sniper. And that's the earliest recollection I have.
Did your brother survive the war?
Yes. Yes, he did.
Did he stay in the Air Force after?
No, he came back and went to Loyola College and got his degree and went to work for Wyatt Drug Company. And he had the West Virginia territory with the Wyatt Drug Company. He's since retired. He's an old guy now.
What was their in your background and early life that motivated you to join the Navy?
Well, I didn't want to crawl around in the mud with the Army or the Marine Corps. Well, I didn't like the Air Force, matter of fact, and I thought, well, the Navy, I like submarines, and I thought I would join the Navy. It's an interesting thing that I went up and joined the Navy, and Good Friday was on the 11th of April, 1952, and Easter Sunday was followed 2 days. And I went up there the morning of the 11th of April, unbeknownst what was going to happen, and we went in, the chief was there, and in come the lieutenant, and raise your right hand, take the pledge, which I did. All right, you guys, grab whatever you got and get down on the bus down front. Of course, I said, no, I'm not going. Today's Good Friday. I'll be back Monday. No way. And that's the first introduction into the Navy that I got, that I belonged to them for the next 4 years.
Yeah.
So I went from the post office here in Baltimore to Pennsylvania Station, and Pennsylvania Station to Perryville, Maryland, which was Bainbridge, Naval Training Center. And that's when I was indoctrinated very good into the Navy.
How long were you in boot camp?
12 weeks.
What was that experience?
That was very bad.
Was there anything enjoyable about it?
No, I went into the hospital there. It was April. It was raining that weekend. It was a weekend of Easter Sunday. We went into a barracks with no heat, no blankets, no pillows, just a mattress folded over on the springs. And that's all we had, because it was a long weekend because of Easter Sunday. And someone come over and took us to the chow hall. We had lunch and had dinner Good Friday. The same was Saturday and Sunday. And Monday, we started our indoctrination, getting our physical and the uniforms and everything like that. And I caught a cold. Of course, a lot of guys caught a cold. And then we were assigned to a barracks and went to the barracks. And it was not heated either. And I got sicker there. And finally they come with an ambulance one night. I was on a temperature of 104, 105. I went to the Naval Hospital. I'm Catholic, and I got the last rites of the church there. They thought I was going to croak,
Oh, no.
but actually I didn't. And the class that I had originally started with, it went on, and whenever I got out of hospital, I had to go back to the reassignment and start my boot camp all over. So I didn't get out until the first part of August. I got leave from there, and I came back early off of leave because there was nothing for me to do in Ferndale. Everybody was working in school and stuff, so I went back early. And then after graduation, we were out on what we called the grinder, where we marched. We were out there, and I guess there's about 5,000 guys waiting to get assigned to different places. And when all the names was called at 2:30 in the afternoon, there was 3 of us left, and I was one of the 3. And I didn't know where I was going to go. And the hospital court, the chief had told us there, put down 3 of your choices where you would like to go out of boot camp. And I put down New London, Connecticut Submarine School, and the second choice was IC electrician at Great Lakes. And I said, I don't know where the third one is. And he said, well, put down hospital corpsman. And I said, well, I don't want to be a hospital corpsman. And he said, well, just put it down. You ain't going to get it. So I put it down. Well, when they called the hospital corpsman for Bainbridge Naval Training Center, which all the schools were over there too, I thought, well, I'm not going there. I don't know where I'm going to go. Lo and behold, I didn't know they had a hospital corps school at Portsmouth, Virginia, but that's where the three guys and I went. Well, I was very disappointed with that. I didn't want any part of hospital corps school. So I made up my mind that I wasn't going to do anything. Test came, I signed my name to it, and that was it. Had it in, not a word that I put on there. So after the first week, they had a little meeting with the chief of surgery and the chief of nurses and all. And I just told them I wanted to go to sea. I didn't want to be a corpsman. I wanted to go to submarines. Well, this captain wasn't at all pleased with me. He said, Haislip, I don't care if it takes you 4 years. You're going to get out of hospital corps school at Portsmouth, Virginia, so you better make up your mind. And so I did. I got it.
Maybe he has a way of doing that.
Yes, there was, that was in, I guess, October, the end of October of 52.
Mm-hmm.
There were, I think, I was trying to figure out last night, about 120 guys in my class in the hospital corps school. And after we graduated, different, you went to different places.
Mm-hmm.
And I was, again, given choices where you wanted to go. And I thought, well, I want to get as close to home as I could. So I put Naval Hospital at Bethesda. I put St. Albans at Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
And they had another one there, Quantico, Virginia, Naval Hospital. So I put that down as my third choice. Well, the chief of nurses and the chief who was teaching us this in the school, he said, you'll never get that one. He said, they very seldom ever take corpsmen at that hospital. It's a choice thing. Sure enough. A guy by the name of Harry Mango from East Orange, New Jersey, and I got to Naval Hospital at Quantico, Virginia. And we were very happy with that. Well, out of my class of 100 and, I guess, 20-some guys, at my last count, I don't know about Mango, but the other, there's only 4 of us left out of that class. And the rest of them were killed in Korea.
Mm-hmm.
And out of my class, there was 2 Medal of Honor winners.
There were what?
2 Medal of Honor winners.
Both Medal of Honor,
And years later, in the 70s, when I was working for the government, I had a chance to go to Pearl Harbor.
Mm-hmm.
And we went to the graveyard there, military graveyard.
Punch hole.
And saw their names all in gold on the steps as you go up. And I've, there's a boy named Charlie Sabatstein who lives up in, he used to live in Waterloo, New York. And I used to visit with him. And there was another guy up there in Clyde, New York. They lived very close together. And Donald Henry and Mango and I are the only ones that I know are still alive. So I was very lucky It's- You want to know why, how I was lucky?
Well, I suppose we'll get to that.
Yeah.
uh,
I was
at some point.
stationed at the Naval Hospital at Quantico, Virginia. And we had maternity wards in the hospital, which was called A and B maternity wards. Well, of course, you had to take food to these wards each day, 3 times a day. And it so happened that we was the new guys there, and Harry Mango and I got this job. And there was a ramp that came down and went up to A ward. There's a ramp that come down this way and went up to B ward. Well, you had these big, long chow carts that would hold maybe 60 or 70 dinners and slide in there. It was heated. You went to place and plugged it in and everything. It had big rubber wheels on it, and you had to shove it down this ramp up the other side to the wards. Well, it was a practice of going down to jump on the back of it and ride it down, and it would go all the way up to the other top of the thing. Well, Mango and I met at this intersection at the bottom of the thing, and there was many people who didn't get dinner that afternoon. Tore the carts all up, everything. Everybody had to carry them by hand up there. Well, of course, we had to go before Captain for that little episode, and he was a tough, one-eyed Mustang officer in the Second World War. Had a black patch over his eye, named K.O. Dykes. We had to go over there, and he said, I want you 2 guys to go over and pack your sea bag and get your dress blues, and I'm calling around, and the next set of orders that comes, I don't care where it's at, you 2 are going to be on it. So we went over and packed our sea bags. Wasn't too long, one of the runners come over and said, the captain wants to see you. So over we went. He was a man of his word. He said, the next set of orders that comes in here, you got. And he said, here they are. And we got stationed at the Naval Gun Factory Dispensary, Washington, D.C., 8th and M Street. Well, that was choice duty. That was 36 section liberty. Every 36 days you stood the duty. And I would go home every night to Ferndale, which I did.
You married?
Met my wife again on a date. We got married in October of '54, and I knew that I wasn't going anywhere. So we got married, went on a honeymoon, and came back, and my orders was waiting on me. Fleet Marine Force, FMF, Camp Pendleton, California. I only had 18 months to go, so Camp Pendleton I went. Well, we had to go through Marine boot camp there. Just the same as they did. Doctors, chiefs, first class, second class, didn't make any difference. Nobody was, you slept in the same barracks and everything. You had a corporal as your instructor, Marine corporal, and he would run you to death. And of course we was in pretty good shape when we came out of there. Went cold weather survival in Pickle Meadows, Nevada, up the Sierra Madres. It was 30 below zero, Mickey Mouse boots, the whole thing for a week. Tried to eat. It was warm and the food was sterno and everything. We lived it up. Came back, got on the General Black, USS General Black, and left for Kobe, Japan. sometime in the middle of February of '55, I guess it was.
You, up until this point, you pretty much were headed down a path that generally you didn't want to go, or were a series of third choices.
Yes.
As you were departing for Kobe, newly married, non-rated, I guess you were rated though, hospital phone at that point.
Yeah.
Not a petty officer at that point.
Not at that point.
How'd you feel about that?
I didn't particularly like it. I thought I'd got another raw deal because I just, before we had decided to get married, I'd went up to PRNC, which was the Potomac River Naval Command, and I knew a warrant officer up there who billed the different guys going to different places, and he told me, no chance you'll be here the rest of your enlistment. Well, I got married, and I was gone, and my wife was pregnant. We found out that in 1st of December, and here I was going to be gone, and my son was 9 months old before I seen him, and I wasn't too pleased with that. I've done a lot of things. Like I told you, the nurses in the Navy have very little to do except to carry the narcotic keys. And the hospitals, and they're non-existent on the ships, and with the Marine Corps there was none either. We assisted in numerous jobs in the operating room. I took tonsils out, I took appendix out, delivered babies, worked in the pharmacy, the lab, doing blood cultures and everything, x-ray, all facets of a hospital. And before I went with the Marine Corps. So when a corpsman went into the field, he was pretty well indoctrinated in what was going on. More so, I think, than any other branch of the service in the medical field, because like with the Marine Corps, I had 2 rifle teams that I was responsible for. Them guys, I ate and slept with them. I went on liberty with them. We done all their work together, and I was just one of them. And they looked up to me for the different needs that they had, medical and anything. And then when I went to Camp Gifu, I was in charge, I wasn't in charge, but I was in the preventative medicine group. And we would go out to the houses of prostitution in Gifu and stuff, and at that time in Japan, the prostitutes, it was legal, and they had to carry cards with them that they were inspected at least monthly, and so we'd have to go around to the different ones that they allocated that we'd go to, and we'd take the smears and right on the spot run the venereal disease check on them. And if the girls were positive, well, the card was taken away from them, and they was out of business for at least 2 weeks. They got their penicillin shot, which Uncle Sam furnished. And if they was clean, well, they got a bill stamped, and they could go back out past their wares. Out of Camp Gifu, I think at that time, I think the Army took it back over, and the Marines moved to Camp McGill outside of Yokosuka, Japan, and that was another big Marine base there. And part of us went to north, south, and middle Camp Fuji on the side of Mount Fuji. We had a bear, and that's where I was assigned. I went up to Middle Camp Fuji. I stayed there until March of '86, of '56, and that's when I was discharged. I came back to Treasure Island, San Francisco, and was discharged and back home.
How did the Korean War was going on at the time, as you were in Japan, how were you supporting that effort? How were you supporting that?
I didn't go, like, the Korean War ended, oh God, I think July of '53.
Okay, so this is
So I went, I was in from April 11th of '52 when it was going on, because the war started in October, I think, of '50, and ended in July of '53. The shooting stopped in July of '53. And I didn't get over there until '55. So I sweated it out.
Yeah.
I didn't get I was lucky.
What was the hospital, or what were the hospitals you were assigned to? Were they supporting any particular units or any particular operation?
No, there was just, when we got out of corps school at Portsmouth, for 2 weeks we were assigned to the Naval Hospital there, and we worked at different things. I worked in eye, ear, nose, and throat clinic then, and I worked with this here, I think his name was Nettles, Dr. Nettles. And we were taking tonsils out. You'd be surprised how many tonsils would be taken out, and assisted him. And we'd take out maybe 15, 16 in the morning, and another 15 or 16 in the afternoon. And you figure, my God, there's not that many tonsils to be taken out, but there was.
Yeah.
And after being there 2 or 3 days, very nice doctor, and he said, well, I think that you should learn how to take tonsils out. He says, you just go, set a guy in a barber chair, like, lean it back, and put a bib around him, and take his tonsils out. And you'd think, well, nothing to it. So I must have took out maybe 10 or 15 guys' tonsils, and they probably never even knew it, but I did. And then the second week, I worked the OR, and we had different operations. I'd never done any, was assisted any heart or brain surgery or anything like that, but we took appendix out and gallbladders and delivered babies. We took a guy's kidney stones out one time. Very big operation on that. I assisted on that. Going over on the General Black to Korea, with Japan. We got, I guess, about 200 miles off of Okinawa and hit a typhoon. One of the Marines had appendicitis, and the doctor on there, on the Black, a Navy doctor, during medical school, he had done surgery and stuff like that, but all of us probably were more versed on taking appendix out than he was. So of course we couldn't make the incision or anything, but myself and a guy by the name of Jenkins and a guy by the name of Cooper assisted the doctor in taking this guy's appendix out during the storm. Well, the operating room was on a gyro, so there was no bouncing around everything on the ship, but, it just sat right there and it was pretty steady. A little movement, but not much. And the doctor made the incision, just broke the skin with the scalpel, You went around the other side, and 3 of us took the appendix out. Took us 22 minutes. It was a pretty good job. And a lot of times in the hospitals, you know, after the surgery, the doctors would just step away, and there was no nurses in any of the hospitals in the operating room. And we'd just stitch them up, do all the things. Doctor come over, looks, and good job of the way he went. But it helped, because when I was stationed at Middle Camp Fuji, you'd never wake the doctor up unless it was a life and death thing. Someone come in a fight from out in town or something like that, and they had a knife cut, arms cut, and eyes beat up and everything. Well, you just went ahead and stitched them up and done it.
In your boot camp experience, were there any particular experiences or recollections that you had?
With the Navy boot camp?
Yeah.
No, the Navy boot camp was pretty straightforward. The company commander came in one morning and asked, could anybody type? And I said, I can type. He said, come with me. So I went up to the front office of the personnel right there, and as far as marching around the gridiron out there in the hot summer, I didn't do it. I stayed up in the air-conditioned office and typed. And of course, I had to go to classes, and I had to go to get examinations and things like that. But I had it pretty lucky for 4 years.
What the class work that you did at Navy boot camp, what did that consist of?
Well, Navy nomenclature, you know, the ships up port and starboard, and what the different ships done, and a lot of marching and things like that. UCMJ, we went over that more than anything else, and just, I think it was indoctrinating the Navy life. I mean, it's cram it down your throat whether you liked it or not.
How did that differ from your experience in the Marine Corps?
That was tough. Marine Corps. The Navy, you went over and you fired 5 rounds with a Mossberg 22 rifle, no qualification or nothing like that, and that was it. I guess the hardest thing that I had to do in the Navy was to climb up a tower in a swimming pool, and the thing was way up in the top of the dome. I don't know if you're ever familiar with how the domes were at the boot camp, you know, in the gymnasiums. But the swimming pool there, you was up maybe 40, 50 feet above the pool and 10 feet of water, and you had to jump off that tower into the pool. And that was pretty hairy. Heights not my thing. And then swimming, you had to take swimming. That was nothing. The Marine Corps was, you got up in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, you went outside, and Camp Pendleton in January was cold in the morning time. And I mean, it was cold. Ice could freeze. And you went out there in your T-shirt and your combat boots, and you started running at 5 o'clock in the morning, and you ran everywhere you went. You ran double time, and singing at 5 o'clock in the morning up and down the roads and everything. When you got back, about enough time to maybe wash off a little bit, and you went to chow. And when you got through eating breakfast, you was right back out there again when the sun was up by then. And you started running again. And you ran all day long. And bayonet practice, rifle range, infiltration course, hand-to-hand combat, and you got the hell beat out of you. It was experience. You went to the rifle range and you qualified with the M1.
Mm-hmm.
The 45 pistol you had to qualify with. And there was, when you come out of there, you were in pretty good shape. More so than the Navy. Navy was nothing as far as boot camp was, but Marine Corps you were. And I guess I look at myself today more as a Marine than I do as a Navy.
Why is that?
Because of the camaraderie, I guess, of it all. The spirit. Navy was nothing, but Marine Corps, they were a sharp outfit. They looked after their men. They treated you good, and a corpsman in the Marine Corps was like a god. I guess that was part of it too. Nobody ever fooled around with you. If you went out on liberty or anything, before I went overseas, we went out on liberty, 5 of us, in a little town, Oceanside, California.
Sure.
It was right outside of the base. And we got dinner, drinks, dessert, and the whole thing, because we was getting ready to go overseas. And told the waitress to put it all in one check. And so whenever we got ready to leave, we asked for the check, and she said, the gunny sergeant's already got your check. And I said, oh no. He says, no way, Doc. It's on us. And there's 4 Marines sitting over there, and they split the bill. It must have been a whopper, but
Yeah.
any place I ever went in, I could never buy anything. If there was Marines in there, I could never buy anything. I was looked out after. When we went on the General Black, I was assigned my rifle team, and all. We went aboard together, and from that time on, 24 guys were mine. And, well, my group, one rifle team worked in the bakery, and the other one worked in the chow hall. So we were 16 bunks high on the Black down in the hull of the ship. And I never fought that chow line. I stayed up above bunk air, I read, and they would bring me food, and they would bring me bakery goods. They took care of me, and I took care of them.
What sort of, when you were at sea with a group of people you were looking at after, what kinds of things did you do as a matter of routine, that of daily activity to do your job?
Make sure personal hygiene, make sure they, even though the water was cold and everything, get your tail in there and take a shower each day, and if some of them were sick or anything like that, well, you treated them. You had medical supplies with you. And when we got overseas, if one of them would, the Marine Corps very, very strict on the men that if they go out and get in trouble with venereal disease or something like that, well, it goes on their record, and they automatically get 30 days confined to the base. Well, they would come to me and say, Doc, I got to talk to you. What's up? Well, tell me this. All right, drop your pants, and I'd run a smear and go in the lab and look at it and yep. You get them 600,000 units of penicillin. Don't you leave this base for another week or 2. Every day I'd take care of them. Well, that was a big thing. So it probably was not right to do, but we done it. We took care of them. It was a good life.
Your transit, you leave San Diego?
Yes.
Left San Diego and
Went to
when did
Kobe.
you- Oh, that's right. Did you
Yeah.
say Kobe? Any stops along the way?
No, we didn't
Other than
stop.
typhoon, any memorable events along the way?
No, just that, I guess we was out on the deck. I guess we was about maybe 5-10 miles off the coast of Japan. We got this awful smell. We didn't know what in the world it was. And it was almost sickening smell that they use human droppings for their fertilizer vegetations is all over there, which we don't do here. The honey bucket man's probably the richest man in Japan. Well, we couldn't get over that, and as the train left, and we traveled all day from Kobe to Gifu, and it backed into the station, I guess, and we got in 6 buys and went to, I guess, maybe 15 miles to the base. We went through this little town called Nakajo, and they had carrots standing up. It was 4 foot high in the corner of the the fruit stands going by, and they had apples that was big as cantaloupes, and radishes, and tomatoes. You couldn't believe the size of them, and you looked and you thought, what in the world is this? Dirty, filthy, smelly town. And it took quite a while to get used to the smell, but gradually it did, and then when we left Yokosuka, going home, when you got 5-10 miles out to sea and the salt air hit you, made your eyes water, because for 18 months you had lived in that environment, that environment, and it was a little different.
How were you mustered out? Your time was up. You were in Japan.
We got on trucks and went to Yokosuka, and I really don't remember the ship that we got on. It was a troop transport, and we came back, and we landed at Treasure Island, and went to our billeting area, and the chief said, well, everybody can go on Liberty. Just go. So a bunch of us, we got in the car, we went to San Francisco, we went to Golden Gate Bridge, and Alcatraz, and Fisherman's Wharf, all down alongside. Took cable car rides and all. And I was due to get out the 11th of April. When did I come home? Was it May? It was the end of May, wasn't it? Easter? But this was on a Friday. I think we got in on a Friday, and we had Saturday and Sunday, and Monday morning we had to go to this amphitheater for a indoctrination for re-enlistment. So we walked down there to sit down, and the chief walked out, and he said, I didn't have too good of a weekend. And he said, I don't know about you guys, he said, but I want everybody in here that's not going to enlist to get up and get the hell out of here. And those guys who wants to re-enlist, stay. There must have been maybe 10 guys out of the whole group that was in there stayed, and the rest of us left.
How many were?
Oh, Lord, I guess there was about 200 or 300 or more. So we got back over to the barracks, and we wondered, what in the world we're going to do? It was 8:30 in the morning, 9 o'clock. So the chief come in, and he said, well, I don't know what we're going to do with you guys, but I just talked to personnel, and they're ready to get rid of you. So why don't you just line up and go over there and get in the line alphabetically, and there was like A, B, and C, and then D, E, and F, and so on. And when you got to your line, you just walked in there, and walked in. Yep. sign here, and the guy said, here's your plane tickets to Baltimore, here's your check for muster and outpay, you're done. I thought, what in the world is this? And I thought we had to stay till 11th of April anyway, but I think we got out on the first or 2nd of April, and I went right over there was a place right there on base, and got my airline tickets with TWA. I said, well, you can fly out of here, such and such. He looked at the hand of Barry. He didn't know who I was, though.
This Larry or
Larry.
brother?
Yeah, Larry.
Larry Field.
Okay. Any other memories, either with the Navy or specific experiences that you recount and would like to?
No, I guess I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to go on to medical school.
When you, as you were mustering in?
Well, before that, actually before I got married, my uncle was a heart specialist in Grafton, West Virginia, and he had volunteered to send me to the University of West Virginia and put all the bills, and I pay him back when I got out of service. Well, of course, I got married, and the baby came along, and that ended that. But I thought that that's what I wanted to do, and I think the Lord more or less plans everything out. I'm pretty happy with what happened in my life. Good experience, something I'll never forget. You know, I met an awful lot of nice guys, and it was money couldn't, I guess, pay for what I went through. It was very good.
How did you feel about being away from your family, not seeing Larry?
Well,
Your son for the first few months. I mean, while you were there, not today, but while you were there.
it was a pretty lonely time. It was, every place was new. I'd done a lot of picture taking, and I've done a lot of traveling around Japan. I didn't care much for the Japanese people before I went over there, because of the Second World War, and I thought there was a bunch of sneaks and everything. But I found out that they're pretty nice people. It was when you got out in like Gamagora and out in the towns, the farms and everything, very, very decent people. And I learned a little Japanese, and you could get along, communicate, and go in a store or something like that and buy something, speaking Japanese to them, and you could understand what they said. And they treated us like everyday people. A lot more if you went to Yokosuka or Yokohama, Kobe, Nagoya, around places like that. It was a lot more friendly than you will get in Philadelphia or New York or someplace around like this. The people were very, very good.
Mrs. Haislip, how did you feel at home with a young son and husband overseas during that period of time? How'd you deal with it?
I tolerated it. It wasn't what we had planned. When you're young and you sit out in the back lawn, you think about what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. And I was going to work until he returned from the service. And then we were going to get married. we got married in October, and like he said, I found out I was pregnant last of December, and he had orders he was leaving the 1st of January, middle of January. I wasn't too happy. But I did have my family close by, and that helped. I didn't feel isolated or anything, so it was sad that George wasn't there when the baby was born in the first 9 months. My son thought that his uncle, I guess, might have been his father because they lived next door and they were always over there. It was the first grandchild, and Larry was 4. And so when George got off the plane and, "Hi, this is your daddy," and he looked at him and he thought, "I don't know you." And he went to Uncle George because Uncle George was there every day for 9 months. So I think till today he's still close to Uncle George. But it's one of those things.
What did you do while your husband was
Well,
overseas?
I worked for an advertising company up until May, and baby was due in August, and then they even sent work home, and I kept that going until July. And so then after I had the baby, I just stayed home and watched the baby. Stayed home all by myself. And then, like I said, George came home, and then it was difficult at first because he wasn't used to the baby. I, of course, knew that you get up in the middle of the night and you do things like this, and he can understand that, why do you have to do this, why do you have to do that. It was a period of readjustment. I wouldn't recommend it. Maybe if I had gone overseas with him, and on a different basis, it would have been easier.
Because that wasn't available.
Not in the Marine Corps. The Navy, you could went to Yakutia, you could have brought your family if you was in a naval hospital, or if you went to Rota, Spain, or England or someplace, you could have took your wife with you. But not aboard ship, and no place with the Marine Corps. It's just not done.
How did you make third class?
The Navy has a funny way of promoting. Navy-wide, you're in competition with all the seamen or HNs, hospital corpsmen, in the whole fleet. And you're biting for that grade. Well, in that particular time, maybe they'd say there's only going to be 26 third class made this time. Well, you could pass the test, but if you didn't get almost a perfect score, you weren't going to get promoted. I passed every test I ever took in the thing, and you just didn't get it. So it was just happened that at this particular time there was enough billets open, and I must have scored high enough that I got it. It's the same way I took second class test for second. See, in a 4-year hitch, the highest you can actually get in a 4-year hitch is second class. You can't get first. You have to ship over. It takes you about 6 years to get first class. And I passed the second class test too, but I never made it. There was just so many that they weren't available. A lot of times, the Marine Corps and the Army and all the others, you're put in for a promotion by your commanding officer, and bang, you get promoted to corporal, sergeant, whatever it is. But not so in the Navy.
What was there when you were Navy and Marine Corps experience that has remained with you other than a variety of glorious memories? What did you take from that experience that you think helped in your subsequent civilian life?
Discipline, I think, is a good thing. I guess when you're young and your parents guide you along the way with the hickory stick or whatever they want to use, that more or less shapes you to what you're going to be later on in life. And I think I'd have to bring that out as my time when in the service has, I guess, helped me more to know where you're at and what you're going to do and all. And I'm a firm believer that every boy or girl coming out of high school should at least have 2 years military training. I think it would eliminate a lot of the problems socially that's happening today. That if someone would tell you, yes, you can do this, and no, you can't do that, and when you're going to do it, they'll have no respect. They don't have respect for their parents, let alone. But I think that respect of a person individually has helped a lot. I may not have liked it at the time, if someone told me what to do and when to do it, but made a better person of me.
Anything else?
No.
Is there any regrets that you had along the way?
Military-wise, you mean?
Either any, military, personal, during that period of time.
No, I was, the time I spent away from my wife hurt me a lot. But other than that, I enjoyed it. And if I had to do it over again, not counting the time away from her, I would do it in a second. I think I made a wise choice.
Have you made any, kept your hand in any way, attended reunions or corresponded with any of your buddies?
Charlie Sabatine came out of service, and he went to college. He lives in upper state New York. Where is he? Rochester, wasn't it? He went to school system. He became a history teacher in school and coached the football and basketball team. And yeah, we went, I guess, about 8 years ago, 6, 8 years ago. We went up and looked him up. See, whenever we were stationed at Quantico, each weekend, Donald Henry had a car, and they would drive back to Waterloo and Clyde, New York. Well, we'd leave at 4:30, 4 o'clock on a Friday, and get in 6 o'clock Saturday morning in Clyde and Waterloo, New York. And we'd leave at 12 o'clock noon up there and come back to the base. Now, every weekend they went home, but then it got so he would come to my house and stay in Ferndale. Sabatine and him would stay in Ferndale at my house one weekend, and the next weekend we would go to Clyde, Waterloo, New York. Well, I met the parents of both of them and everything. So whenever they came back through Glen Burnie to pick me up, because we'd go down 301 to Portsmouth down Route 17, well, my mom would have sandwiches and coffee and everything ready and goodies, and I would take over the driving, because Henry had drove from Waterloo, New York to Ferndale, and then he would sleep, and I'd get and drive, so I'd drive from there to the base at Quantico, at Portsmouth.
Mm-hmm.
Well, after we graduated and got out of course school at Portsmouth, and I went to Quantico, Sabatine and him went aboard ship out of Norfolk.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when they come into base, they come back to Ferndale. I was in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
They come back to Ferndale and stay with my mother, you know, and spend the weekend there drinking, you know, sitting, eating, and mom feeding and everything like that. And I was overseas at the time. So, I guess about 5 years ago, we were up to the Five Finger Lakes up in New York. And I saw a sign that said Waterloo, New York. And I said, let's go see if we can find Charlie.
Mm-hmm.
Because she had met Charlie too. So I went there and went to his house and knocked on the door. And who was living there? His brother? Well, we wanted to see Charlie. Well, Charlie lives up in Rochester or someplace like that. I'll call him. So he called Charlie, and of course Charlie was retired from the school system and everything then. And him and his wife drove down to Waterloo, and I think we were staying at the Holiday Inn one, and we had dinner together.
Great.
And he's supposed to, he's a jogger, yeah, he runs marathons all over the country. He runs in New York and the Boston Marathon and out west and all. And then another friend of mine I met in service was a guy by the name of John Harrod. And he was with me in Japan. Well, he came back, he was from a little place called Creighton, Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
And he went to the University of Nebraska and became a pharmacist. And in 1966, we took a vacation, and John had a pharmacy
Mm-hmm.
in this little town. Basically had a pharmacy, a drugstore, a hardware store, and that was all it was. It was just a little one street. And we pulled up on Sunday morning in front of his pharmacy. And I had shorts on, sunglasses, and I went into the place, and he was back in the back, and a couple of people was there, and I waited around till they left, and he said, "Can I help you?" And I said, "Yeah, I need some prophylaxis for a bull I got out of the bar." He looked at me and he said, "Oh, it couldn't be." And, oh, we hugged, and
Yeah.
it was a good experience. And we went, and I guess we stayed 3 days with his wife and his family there. And then a couple years later, they came from Nebraska to Ferndale, stayed with us. But it's been some good times.
Good. Good. Thank you very much for sharing your experiences with us.
Glad to help. Thank you.